Kathleen Kelly, the owner of a quaint children's bookstore in New York, is dating a man named Frank Navasky. The two are very different, and while he is very devoted to his typewriter and is against computers, Kathleen uses her computer to exchange messages via email with a man she has nothing to know about except for the fact that his dog's name is Brinkley. We find out the man is also in a relationship and the two seem unhappy. We learn that the man's name is Joe Fox, and he and his family are the owners of Fox Books, which is a huge competition to Kathleen's small bookstore. The people who help Kathleen with her bookstore are worried that her store will go under due to Fox Books, but she ignores them because she has faith in her loyal customers. Joe and Kathleen meet unintentionally, but still have no idea that they have been emailing each other. Kathleen tells Joe about how Fox Books is going to be a detriment, and Joe tries to hide his last name. Kathleen meets his nephew, which makes it hard for Joe to hide his last name because his nephew keeps spelling out Fox because their last name is Fox. The two meet again at a dinner party, and Kathleen finds out that he is the owner of Fox Books, and she feels very betrayed and lied to. Kathleen ends up emailing Joe about himself, and Joe urges her to stand up for herself and say what she's feeling. So Kathleen decides to make a stand and create negative publicity around Fox Books, but there is no real change in the store's sales. Kathleen's bookstore begins to tank, and while Fox Books sales begin to uprise, Joe and Kathleen decide to meet via email. Joe sees Kathleen through the window and realizes it is her and decides to go up to her as himself and not the man she has been emailing. Kathleen is very rude to Joe, and he is turned off and leaves. Kathleen then expresses how awful she feels about the situation to Joe through email once again, and he assures her that everything will be okay. Joe decides to bring flowers to Kathleen to make up for all of his trouble towards her. Both Joe and Kathleen in their relationships, and Kathleen and Joe decides they need to meet up through email once again, but Joe says they need to wait. Kathleen's bookstore officially closes, and she says a piece of her feels like she's dying inside because it's one of the last things she had from her mother. Joe and Kathleen begin to slowly build a relationship, and Joe confesses that he has feelings towards Kathleen, but Kathleen says that she has feeling for the man he's been emailing. Shortly after this conversation, we hear Joe's voice while Kathleen is waiting for the man that she's meeting, and she realizes the man she's been emailing is Joe. You've Got Mail is a great example of the importance of identity and authenticity. Joe and Kathleen were not able to see who they truly were through their short, heated conversations, but when they were emailing each other, the two were very compatible and enjoyed each other's company. Another theme is class difference. Joe and Kathleen cannot really connect in person because Kathleen is struggling to stay afloat while Joe is wealthy and has lots of family money. Kathleen sees Joe as greedy and selfish when talking in person. Lastly is technology versus tradition. This is shown in several ways. For example, Frank's distaste towards computers and fondness towards typewriters and more traditional ways of communication. And also, Fox Books is a much more technically advanced and efficient store, but has the lack of character that Kathleen's store has. And Kathleen's store is a very small and cute place where people truly care about literature. While there were no other movies inspired by You've Got Mail, they do mention The Godfather many times. There are many different references to The Godfather, like the horse head and using the stereotype that all men have an attachment to the film. The film You've Got Mail also pays homage to the movie The Shop Around the Corner, which is the name of Kathleen's bookstore. The movie did not win any notable awards, but Meg Ryan was nominated for Favorite Actress in Comedy and Romance, and the 2000 Blockbuster Entertainment Awards. I do think Meg Ryan should have won the award because she was such a great actress and really made her character lovable and funny. The movie was a great love story with a happy ending, and it was definitely a feel-good. I think You've Got Mail is one of the greatest rom-coms I've ever seen with an interesting plot and lovable characters. While I have seen better movies, this one is a must-see, and I would completely watch it again and never get tired. The movie is a tad predictable, and it can be understood from the beginning that Kathleen and Joe will fall in love and end up together. Another thing is the fact that Joe puts Kathleen out of business makes him much less easy to sympathize with because that bookstore was the last thing Kathleen had of her mother. Kathleen falling in love with Joe makes her character appear weaker and have less self-control since she cared so much for her mother's bookstore and let go of Joe's actions for falling in love. For the time, falling in love through email or throughout the internet at all was groundbreaking, but now it may seem a little dated. Overall, I thought the movie was really cute and a happy story besides a few flaws. I thought the acting was great and the storyline was very different from the typical rom-com. I would give the movie 3.5 stars out of 5. It was a very nice watch, but I've seen better movies.